Let's kick things off this week with the biggest game in England. It maybe wasn't a de facto title decider, but it may sway where things are going to go towards the end of the season. That was, of course, Manchester City's win over Arsenal. And to discuss that and the ramifications of it and the ramifications of the market values of the players involved, I have assembled the full strength of the UK content team. We have Ben Littlemore, Joe Krishnan and Ewan Robertson. Guys, let's just jump straight into it. There's a lot to talk about from this match. First things first, maybe you guys could just offer your broad opinions on the game. Joe, I'll go to you first. You were actually on desk for us during the game. You wrote the match report, if you will, on it. What did you take away from that match at full time?
I think Arsenal in particular will be disappointed with the result because it was one of their best performances in recent weeks, as far as I've seen anyway. You know, I think they had the chances to at least get a draw from the match. And, you know, obviously for them, it's going to give them a bit of a swing in the title race. You know, Manchester City only 3 points behind now with that game in hand. I think for Man City, you know, people went into the game expecting them, you know, to go for it. You know, they had nothing to lose per se, but they did have that pressure of, you know, this is you have to win now, or the title's over. I mean, Pep Guardiola said as much in his pre-match interview. So I think City delivered what I would say an assured performance. I don't think they were dominant like we have seen in recent years. But I think there was definitely enough from Arsenal to suggest that they're going to improve in the recent weeks. They haven't been in the form of the team that's going to win the title for me. And I think that's the most worrying thing for Arsenal fans. My housemate's an Arsenal fan, so you know, I've been getting that kind of anxiety from him. But certainly, I think there was enough to say, you know, Arsenal had a bit of bad luck with the post. You know, Havertz had a really good chance in the second half as well. I think overall, you can't really criticise the approach from Arteta, whereas we could have said that, for example, the game at Liverpool earlier in the season where they lost 1-0. It was far too negative. I think this time they actually had a good game plan. I think the selection with the team was pretty much spot on with what he had available. So it's just one of those games, you know, it was very nip and tuck between the two teams. I think it was one of those days where it could have been a draw, but I think it went against Arsenal and they got to pick themselves up for the next 5 games.
Yeah, Ben, it was almost more frustrating for Arsenal fans in the sense that it was actually a pretty solid performance. Arsenal didn't sit back. They didn't kind of try and cling on for like a 0-0 draw, if you will. They did take the game to Man City and they had plenty of chances to win that game. Is that kind of the main takeaway, the frustration for Arsenal rather than just the result itself?
Definitely. I think the frustration will lie in. I think that's Arsenal's best performance in the league, certainly since the North London derby. I think it was even better than that. I think it's the best performance in the league this calendar year. I think the frustration will come for Arsenal fans. Why didn't they play like that against Bournemouth? Why didn't they play like that against Wolves, Brentford? They were so on the front foot. If you look at the way they press, they usually press with just a 2. Usually Erdegaard and the striker, or Eze and the striker. They pressed with a 3. Rice was so high getting onto them. There was such a positivity when Arsenal got the ball to go forward. At times, we saw it a bit like the League Cup final towards the end of the first half and the start of the second when it was being played too much between Gabriel, Raya and Saliba. But in general, there was a lot of passes forward. And Arsenal, I mean, the Eze one is it looks like it could be the moment of the season. You know, the Arsenal fan come in and essentially could have won Arsenal the title if that goes in. So close, it's millimetres away. And the Havertz header at the end, I mean, I thought Havertz was excellent and showed what it's like for Arsenal to have a striker who can actually receive the ball and link up play, but how he misses that header at the end, I mean, it's a gutting moment and a moment that you'll probably look back on if Man City win the league as a defining moment. And I think Arsenal fans can take some confidence. If they play like that for the next 5 games, they have got a chance still. But you feel with the games Man City have, I mean, Man City plays Burnley in the week. If they go and win that 5-0, it then becomes an almighty difficult task for Arsenal to catch up on goal difference, even if both teams win all of the remaining games.
Yeah, Ewan, it was a really captivating game. I was kind of posting on social media during the match that it felt like a game that kind of moment of brilliance was going to kind of define it. We saw so many. I mean, you could argue maybe Donnarumma's kind of mishap was a moment of brilliance, but obviously the Cherki goal was outstanding, and then Man City's second goal was a lovely play through that Arsenal defence. So much of the kind of reaction from the game has been based on Arsenal, but what did you make of Manchester City in terms of the way that they are just kind of like growing and ascendancy and in momentum, and it kind of feels like the same old from Pep Guardiola here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I didn't think they were great yesterday, but they won the game, and that's all that matters. I concur with what Joe and Ben said. I think Arsenal were really good yesterday. I thought Mikel Arteta got it spot on, which you can accuse him not of doing recently in terms of being maybe overly defensive. Yeah, I thought City, they just had those kind of quality individual players who stepped up at the big moments. And I think that's what Arsenal lack in attack. Is what City have. They don't have a player like Ryan Cherki can do something magical out of nothing. They don't have a clinical striker who you'd back to score big chances. And Erling Haaland, I think if especially Havertz's first chance falls to Haaland, it's a goal. I think the header is more difficult than the first chance, but you'd back Haaland to score that again. I think that's what Arsenal lack, is that real kind of world-class player at the top end of the pitch that can make a difference in these games. Because I thought in general play, I thought Arsenal were the better team.